Hi, I'm Nick Federoff, and we're standing in downtown Nevada City in front of the Golden Era Spirit and Cocktail Lounge. We're going to go inside and see what classic cocktails they're mixing up. Then we're going to learn some cocktails that we can make at home. Come on in. So here we are at the actual bar of the Golden Era Spirit and Cocktail Lounge. And we're talking to Benjamin. Now Benjamin's been making cocktails for well over 12 years, and he's going to give us a little walkthrough about what this bar is actually about. So, what can we expect when we come here?
When you come to Golden Era, you're going to get handcrafted ingredients that are made from scratch. They're going to be making the freshest cocktails we possibly can.
And how long has this bar actually been a bar?
It's been a bar since 1861. It's been serving cocktails since the Gold Rush days. This actual building was built in 1867 after being deconstructed from a couple fires and whatnot. So yeah, since 1867, this building has been in place until this day.
Wow, that's well over 100 years. That's pretty incredible. Is it true that this is one of the oldest bars in the United States?
It's definitely one of the older bars, especially in this area. Like I said, this cocktail bar has been serving drinks since the Gold Rush days. 1867, it's definitely well in there with some of the older bars in California for sure.
So when you're making a cocktail and somebody comes in and they ask you for a cocktail, what are some of the things that you would ask them to make sure that you're making them the right cocktail?
Usually what I ask them is what their favorite spirit is. Once I find out what their favorite spirit is, rum, gin, vodka, tequila, wherever that may be, that's a good place to start because then usually I can kind of cater for a cocktail after that. Secondly, I would ask if they want citrus or no citrus in their cocktail via a stirred cocktail like a Manhattan or a shaken cocktail like a margarita with citrus in there.
So what's this difference between shaken and stirred cocktails?
The rule of thumb usually is if there's citrus in the cocktail, it gets shaken. If there's not, it doesn't.
That sounds a pretty simple rule to follow.
Pretty straightforward.
So if we were to make a cocktail right now, what would you recommend?
A couple cocktails that we would do right now. I got a couple good cocktails that we can do for the holidays. Good cocktails that you can make at home easily, especially during the holiday season, kind of like versions of an Irish coffee or an eggnog. That would be really good.
So what's your version of an Irish coffee?
So our version of an Irish coffee is the Ellerman's Cup of Joe. It's a kind of an ode to the Ellerman Saloon that was here in 1901. And it's a cocktail using bourbon instead of your normal Irish coffee, and a little spin on just some easy house-made whipped cream as well too to put on top of it.
Are we gonna make one?
Are you guys thirsty?
I am.
Let's do it then. So we're gonna use this great coffee mug. Any one of your coffee mugs at home would work just as well too. And then we're gonna start with 2 ounces of George Dougal whiskey. So one of the spins on this, instead of an Irish coffee, is we're gonna be using bourbon for this. So we're going to do 2 ounces of bourbon in your favorite coffee mug. A little tiny squirt of sugar, just kind of sweeten it up a little bit. Top it off with your favorite homebrewed coffee. You want to leave a little collar on the top so you can make some room for your whipped cream. And what I got going right here is just a little bit of house-made whipped cream. It's some of our vanilla syrup that we make in-house. It's easily recreatable. Just take some vanilla beans and put it in a 2-to-1 mixture of sugar and water. So 2 cups of sugar to 1 cup of water. Makes a really nice thick sugar. Heat it up and dilute it. So a little bit of a heavy whipping cream in here and some of the vanilla syrup. Just going to give it a little shake.
Very nice shaking style.
To kind of get that whipped cream nice and frothy. And once you kind of hear it start to slow down a little bit, your whipped cream is ready. I know, right?
Thank you.
Nice and clean. And just a little drizzle of whipped cream over the top of this guy.
Oh, that looks gorgeous.
Yeah. So a little dollop of whipped cream on top. And to kind of top it off and add that little kind of Christmas mint to it. A little fresh grated nutmeg on top, and a little bit of cinnamon as well too. She's ready to go.
Well,
There you are.
a little taste. And that's the best thing I've tasted all day.
Good.
It's nice. It's not too sweet. It's not too bitter from the coffee. It's just got that nice, real good balance of it. Nice spiciness from the nutmeg on there.
Yeah.
This is great. Fantastic cocktail. That's for you.
Yay.
Yeah, and the whole idea as well too is you want it to be, something you can easily recreate on home as well too. A lot of people kind of get intimidated when they go to cocktail bars and see these really elaborate cocktails going on behind the bar and people shaking like crazy. I mean, that's a 3-ingredient cocktail that anybody can make with just some simple bourbon, coffee, and just whipping up a little whipped cream on top as well too.
Really? I mean, like everything you said were ingredients that people had just around the home.
Stuff that's readily available that you don't have to go fishing around, or something that's going to take you hours to make at home either. So it's just something you can whip up on your own time and know.
So what's another cocktail that you think people could do at home?
A really good one to do is an eggnog from scratch.
From scratch?
Everybody likes eggnog. It's a big holiday thing. So yeah, we're gonna make an eggnog from scratch. It's called the Yuletide Nog. It's a recipe that I kind of use for making these when I make cocktails at a bar as well too. But at the same time, it's something that's fairly simple. The only thing what this one is you are going to be using one whole raw egg. People do get a little wary about eggs in cocktails, but at the same time, when you're mixing it with alcohol, it does definitely sanitize it as well. But for this one, we're going to use an ounce of brandy. So right now we got some delicious Landy's brandy. It's a really good all-purpose brandy that works great for everything. And we're going to use a little bit of a silver rum as well too for this. So we're going to use an ounce of Plantation 3-Star rum. And then yeah, a little bit of some of our super syrup that we spoke about earlier. So 3/4 of an ounce of that guy in there. And then an ounce of half and half. You can use half and half. You can use heavy cream as well too. If you wanted a little lighter, not as thick, you can use half and half. I like using half and half just because you're going to be adding a whole egg in there as well too, without the shell. And then I just got to give it a good dry shake. So a dry shake is basically shaking it without ice in there. So it gets nice and frothy. You're going to try and create that nice air pockets inside the egg.
So when you shake it with an egg in it, what does that do for the cocktail?
It's essentially aerating the egg that's in there. It creates that froth. The best way I try to explain it is if you think of it like a meringue pie, when you're whipping egg whites, and it kind of creates those stiff peaks in there. When you're shaking the cocktail with the egg whites or an egg in there, it creates there's air pockets inside the egg as well too to expand it to get that froth in there that you're looking for.
If somebody was worried about bacteria, could they just use the egg white instead?
Oh, you can easily do that. As far as an eggnog though, the egg yolk is actually what gives it that kind of the flavor profile that you find in most eggnogs. After you give it a good dry shake and get it nice and aerated, just going to throw in some ice and repeat the process. Give it a good shake, bring it down to temperature.
Get a nice workout in the process?
You definitely get a workout, especially when you do this about 200 times a night. So we got our nice chilled glass here, and we have these nice, wonderful big cubes as well.
Larger the cube prevents for dilution?
Less dilution, yeah. So the larger surface area of the cube prevents it from diluting quicker, which is going to add extra water to your cocktail that you don't want. Definitely want to kind of try and find some kind of double strainer to catch all that extra stuff, maybe from the egg or broken ice as well too. Like I said, when you're shaking it, you're already incorporating the amount of ice that you want inside the drink. Using the double strainer will catch all the extra ice to keep it from diluting as well. Another good little shave of nutmeg on top as well too. Even a little cinnamon on this one wouldn't hurt.
It smells delicious.
And you got a fresh eggnog from scratch right there.
Great. I'm going to steal that from you.
Go ahead. Looks like Christmas.
It smells like Christmas. Okay, I lied. This is the best thing that I've had all day.
It's slightly indulgent because again, it's made from scratch and it's a little different than ones that you're going to get from the store. But at the same time, I mean, it's stuff that everybody has at home. Everyone has eggs. Everyone has cream for the most part. If you got the alcohol, you can pretty much do it with anything. Brandy's the standard for an eggnog.
So I'm a tequila kind of guy, and I like mezcals as well. What's a cocktail for people who really like tequila and mezcal?
Well, what we can actually do is make one of the #1 cocktail that's made in the United States, which is a margarita. We can do a really cool version of that called a Oaxacan margarita using some mezcal. Mezcal is a really great spirit that's from the region of Oaxaca. It's very similar to tequila, but slightly different cooking process in the way that they roast the piñas underground. So it gets a little slightly smokier taste to it, flavor profile. And a really good recipe to use would be one of Tommy's Mexican restaurant, which is kind of a Tommy's margarita. It's using spirit, lime juice, and agave. Agave is a really good sugar to use for it because it's the syrup that's derivative of the agave plant. So what we're gonna do is use 2 ounces of Nuestra Soledad, which is a really phenomenal mezcal. 1 ounce of fresh lime juice. Fresh lime juice is key when you're making your cocktail. Makes it really nice and bright, fresh. So an ounce of that in there. An ounce of that. And throw in some ice in here. And give it a nice good shake. The whole point of shaking a cocktail is to, 1, bring it down to temperature. You want to get it nice and chilled. And 2, to incorporate water dilution. Water is going to bring it down to where you can actually taste the spirit without it overwhelming you. So you want to give it a good shake for about 15 to 20 seconds. That's where you get this nice frost on the outside of your tin. That way you know it's nice and cold. I'm going to get a cup for you guys. Fill it with ice. Only once your cocktail is ready. If you fill it before, you're going to get all this water that's diluting in the bottom of your cup, which you don't want. Again, a nice little double strain to kind of catch all that extra ice and other stuff that would just be sitting in your cocktail. Garnish this with a little lime wheel on there to make it look nice and pretty. And there you go.
And you put the salt in there already.
Oh, now that is a good cocktail. Also,
It's-
my favorite thing I've tasted today.
Margarita is definitely one of my favorites as well too. Really bright, really clean, and then the mezcal adds this really nice kind of
Smoky quality to it,
smoky
yeah.
flavor to it.
It's kind of very different
wow.
than the cocktails that you'll run into at your run-of-the-mill bar, but it's still as simple as you can get. Only 3 ingredients.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Very basic, but at the same time, again, the quality of the ingredients that you're using for your cocktail makes all the difference. Again, using agave, which is, a syrup that's native to the plant that we're using to make the agave, or the mezcal, I should say. And the fresh, bright juice as well, too, makes all the difference as well. So
So is that something you would say is paramount when you're making cocktails? Is the quality of your ingredients comes first?
it makes all the difference. It is the difference. That's what makes this place this.
So you're saying a wonderful bartender could walk into a place that doesn't have very good ingredients, and almost a novice could make a better cocktail under certain conditions.
If they're using fresh ingredients, most definitely. The quality of the ingredients speaks to the quality of the cocktail you're going to get. So
This is the best margarita I've ever had in my entire life. Most of the time they're made with some sort of mixer or like some pre-made mixer.
sweet and sour.
And I don't really like them. And I would totally drink these because this is the best tasting margarita I've ever had. And I really like that I can taste the alcohol, but it is more like smoky or more sort of.
And again, I mean, the
Just different.
whole point of a cocktail is to be able to taste the base spirit that's in there. Otherwise, it kind of defeats the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And again, using that kind of ratio of 2 1/2, 2 ounces of spirit to 1 ounce of citrus to a 1/2 ounce of some kind of sugar
I
makes.
don't even really taste the sugar. That's what I don't like about the mixers. They taste like a bunch of sugar.
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, for that ratio, it creates a really nice balance across the cocktail to where it's not too tart, it's not too sweet, and you can still taste everything that's going on in there
Yeah.
without being overwhelmed by one thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Good job.
Thank you.
Now it's your turn.
Oh, it's my turn.
And then let's see what Eric thinks.
Oh, let me try this.
He's like, I want another eggnog.
Well, I am a tequila lover, and I drink tequila these every day. And this one here is very, very good because it's fresh.
Good.
Like she said, you don't taste the mix. It's all really fabulous. Fabulous.
Good. I'm glad you enjoy
Cheers
it.
to you.
Yeah, cheers.
How about yours?
Yeah, Eric, give us a lesson.
Yes. Tell us what you taste.
Doesn't get much better.
Yeah.
A margarita like this changed my life 9 years ago. Now we're all sitting at a bar together,
Yeah.
Yay.
just like this. So,
Yeah.
Right on.
Cheers.
Awesome.
Good one.
Cool.
Is that what you're talking about? Yep. Great.
Patty, you should make sure this isn't broken.
Oh, let's make sure that tastes okay.
What?
Not broken.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to beat a cocktail like that. I mean, and it's very true. I mean, the simplest cocktails usually are the best ones just because it's really hard to screw them up. But at the same time, you know, the really simple quality ingredients make all the difference in there. So that's, yeah, it's a really good margarita. Can't beat that.
On the
So now-
margarita, sorry.
Well, go ahead.
Once
No, go
again,
ahead.
Just with the agave nectar, because it comes almost like honey. Same thing you see with the sugar you're making. You have to cut it.
Yeah,
So 3/4 of an ounce of pure agave nectar.
that would be a lot. And that's why I was saying the 2 1/2.
A little bit of water on there. So.
Yeah, just a little bit.
No, dilute it.
If you, well, it does as well too. I mean, it helps to break it up. I mean, like when you're making honey syrup or anything of that nature that's really thick like that, a little bit of warm water just to make it to loosen it up a little bit, and so it's not nearly as viscous and intense. I mean, you still get the flavor profile that you're looking for and the sugar content that you want, but just that little bit of water. You know, like again, like 1/4 of an ounce. So it's basically a 2-1 as well. So 1/2 ounce to 1/4 ounce of water.
It's sort of the preventative measure from like
Again,
lumps in pancakes. It's
yeah,
like
you know-
you want to add that water so you get even.
And I've found this before as well too. Like when I make cocktails with just straight honey, honey will solidify when you're shaking it with cold, like really, really cold. If you shake it a lot, it won't even strain out through the cocktail. It'll solidify and like gel up on you. So that little bit of water, hot water, making honey syrup, just like you would anything else kind of syrup, a 2-to-1 ratio, it breaks it up just enough to where it doesn't solidify, but you're still getting that flavor profile that you're really after.
So if you made a margarita, do you make it to order with salt, or you automatically put that saline in?
We automatically put the saline in.
You did that.
I didn't in that one. No, I mean, no, for sure.
I love it without salt.
I know, and I mean, I left the saline solution out of that one just because, again, for cocktail purpose, for the normal consumer at home, they're not going to have a saline solution laying around. They're most likely going to go for the salt in the rim. Huh? I know, right? That's slightly different solution. But again,
Don't use contact
for us at the bar, I know, right? Don't do that. For us at the bar, I mean, it's just more practical. It's a little more streamlined as well too, just for flow and for functionality and whatnot. But at the same time, it fills that gap of, you know, what you're looking for that's kind of salty umami. You know, they get that sweetness, the brightness of the citrus, and then that little bit of saltiness, and it just all interacts, and it's just really good. So that little bit of saline solution is key. Goes a long way. But yeah, again, it's not something that everyone's going to have laying around their house or want to make.
You said the margarita was the top selling.
It is the number one
cocktail.
selling cocktail in
I
the United
believe
States.
you. So what would you say?
Although vodka is the number one purchased one, but even regardless of that, the margarita is the number one consumed cocktail.
That's so. What makes the difference? Do you think?
I don't know, actually.
I stumped you for once.
You did. I don't know why. I mean, it's just because vodka is like the number one selling spirit, but the number one selling cocktail is a margarita. I think it's just for all those different reasons that we talked about. You know, it's very simple, but at the same time, super delicious. Vodka is one of the the number one selling spirit, just because it's the thing that most people can drink without it tasting like alcohol, I would think. But yeah,
So
to each his own.
if this is the number one selling cocktail in the U.S., what would be the classic cocktail in the U.S.?
Classic cocktail would definitely be an old fashioned. Old fashioned is a term that first popped up in the 1840s, 1850s, first in print, and it essentially translated to bitters, sugar, and spirit. That was considered an old fashioned via whatever spirit you wanted to use for it. Back in those days, for the most part, it was cognac that was being used, just because cognac's been around for a long time. And it kind of morphed into a cocktail of rye, which is one of our spirits of the United States, and whiskey. So we're going to do a version of that with a couple different bitters and some sugar and some really good rye. So we're going to use some Angostura bitters. We're going to do 2 good dashes of that. Orange bitters as well too. We're going to use 2 good dashes of that. And Peychaud's, which is this really kind of nice, like almost cherry-ish flavor bitters. That's from New Orleans. It's really good. So we got a bunch of different flavor profiles going on here. We got the nice bitter one from the Angostura, that nice clean orange flavor profile, and the orange or the cherry from the Peychaud's. So we're going to add a little bit of sugar. So we're going to add about 1/4 ounce of sugar, just really small amount. It doesn't take a lot in there. And then we're going to use 2 ounces of some really good rye. Right here we have 1776 rye. It's a really good 6-year rye, 100% rye as well too. And since these are all like spirits with no citrus, we are going to be stirring this cocktail. We have these really beautiful hand-blown mixing glasses, and we're going to give it a good stir.
So what do you recommend with stirring a cocktail? If someone has a cocktail that they want to stir, how do they go about that?
Stirring a cocktail, so again, the rule of thumb is anything with citrus in it, you're going to shake. It's not like ingredients. There's oils and stuff in citrus, so you really want to incorporate those, give them a nice vigorous shake. All of these are like spirits, so you definitely want to stir these. Keeps it really nice and clean, but at the same time, it has the same properties. You're bringing it down to temperature by creating friction and stirring this cocktail, and you're incorporating water as well too to slightly dilute it to make the drink more approachable and palatable. 30 stirs is what they say. It varies pretty dramatically on the type of ice that you have. We have this really nice Hoshizaki cold draft ice, which is a lot colder and has a little more surface area. So it does take a little more to bring it down to temperature. We're gonna get a nice chilled glass. And another beautiful large cube. And we're just gonna give this a nice strain. You don't have to use a double strainer for this one because we didn't shake it and break up all the ice. We get a nice clean stir and kept everything all intact. We're just gonna garnish it with a beautiful little orange peel and brandied cherry in there. Lay over across the top. And that is gonna be your old fashioned.
Cheers. That's a lot of fruit in there. It's really nice, actually. I was expecting it to be a lot more rough on the alcohol smell, but it's not. It's very, very bright. And tastes like heaven.
It's really pretty.
It's kind of a nice modernization version of the traditional old fashioned, which has been around for 150 years, and a version that I don't know how it appeared or why it appeared in the 80s and 90s, which was muddled cherry and a muddled orange wheel, and even in some cases had a splash of soda water on top, which people somehow called an old fashioned.
With the muddled neon.
Yeah, those really weird neo maraschino cherries muddled in there. So this is kind of an adaptation of the old and the modern one as well too. So the orange bitters acts as your muddled orange that the people used to do, and the Peychaud bitters acts as the cherry that people used to muddle as well too. And then the Ango kind of keeps a tradition with just using really nice old-fashioned bitters in there as well. And then a little bit of sugar, simple syrup, and you can easily put a sugar cube inside that glass and douse all of those on top of the sugar cube and then muddle that sugar cube. One sugar cube pretty much translates to exactly 1/4 ounce of which we use for the cocktail. And then add your spirit on top and then give it a good little stir in your mixing glass. But again, very basic, something that anybody could recreate at home. I mean, those bitters, you don't have to use all three. You can easily just use Ango and espresso and orange inside of your glass as well too to kind of get the same flavor profile in there to make it a little bit easier. And but just a very simple and super delicious classic cocktail that everyone should know how to make and not be intimidated to make it at home.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, we've had some fun here, and we've made some cocktails. I think that I have a few new recipes that I'm going to try out when I go home.
Most definitely.
And, I don't need to go to the store to get anything, which is great.
Yeah, because you can just come to the beautiful Golden Era, and we would be more than happy to make all these drinks for you.
Oh yeah, and I'll do that for sure. So I thank you very much.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys are very
Wonderful
welcome. Thank you
job.
so much for coming in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll be back again for sure. Well, thank
Till
you.
next time, guys.
Yeah.
Have a great one. Be safe.